Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, that darn kitty.
Dorkus and I are both going into the story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way.
Hold on to your butts, because this is Ascension Unleashed, a blind read-through. And today we will be covering Chapter 57!
Chapter 57! A blind. Another blind.
Yep, another one. Oh. I'm scared, as usual.
Me too. We need confirmation in Readthrough.
Mm-hmm.
I am expecting Elend to arrive at the city with his terracemen in tow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's going to happen with the book? Are we going to learn stuff? Is Sazed going to be too forlorn to even care about his book anymore?
Mm-hmm.
His whole life has been a sham. So
yeah, we need Sazed being commanding. If we're going with my epigraph revelations from the last chapter, we'll need him commanding some kings in this one.
Yeah. You know what? Elend also is going to be rather torn up. This is what I'm expecting, unless he decides to be all manly about it. But he's going to be torn up about Tindwyl. Tindwyl's very important to him.
Yeah, very much so.
Mm.
I don't think it's going to happen, but I would love to see Elend a bit conflicted about whether or not to take the crown back, because technically Vin won it back through conquering Luthadel with the Kolos. He did not get it back from a vote in the assembly.
Mm. But he's going to have to, he would be conflicted about it, but he needs to understand.
Yeah.
That this is how the world works, and he's probably going to want an assembly vote. And people are going to be like, oh, could you just? You know?
Right. But
he wants to, he'll remake the assembly, I think.
If we had like 300 more pages, I would expect something like that, but we don't.
Okay.
We've got to get Vin talking to Sazed about the location of the Well of Ascension, because she has more or less figured out it's there in the city.
Where the hell is Marsh?
Yeah. And where is Marsh? Whom we think has the well, right? We think he has it.
Yeah. But also, we've just heard that the Inquisitors have went and wiped out Terrace people. So what's that going to? Because remember, Sazed's also a bit freaked out by Marsh. What's that going to do? Is Sazed going to become some sort of Inquisitor racist? So not too sure about that.
I think Sazed's wise enough to know that Marsh is unique.
Unless he was part of it. Because he went evil.
No, I think when the Inquisitors went north to Terrace, that was when Marsh went to the conventicle with Sazed. And I think, in no small part, the Inquisitors went to Terrace looking for the well.
Yeah. I agree. All right, let's get into it.
It is a distant hope. Alendi has survived assassins, wars, and catastrophes, and yet I hope that in the frozen mountains of Terrace, he may finally be exposed. I hope for a miracle.
Exposed?
Exposed as a fraud? But he's gonna do the thing that he said he would do.
Yeah. And the pounding, he could still hear that. So, well, hey, thinking about who everyone is with regard to the Hero of Ages. So Vin is Alendi, essentially, because she also could hear the pounding. Okay, but he was also the Hero of Ages, so it actually rhymes too, because everyone thinks that she's the Hero of Ages, she can hear the pounding, whatever, yet she's still not the Hero of Ages. It's repeating itself.
Yes. Because the pounding...
Yeah.
If we presume that the pounding is not proof that Vin is the Hero of Ages, we therefore have to logically conclude that Alendi hearing the pounding does not make him the hero of ages.
Yep. It's a double bluff, because we're like, oh, she can hear it, therefore she's the hero of ages. But it's like, I don't know. Anyway, all will be revealed, hopefully.
Yeah. Have we floated the idea that anyone could be the hero of ages? I feel like we have at some point.
Yeah, we have that. It's just like the well actually doesn't care who it is. It's just you should choose the right person. That's the thing. You should send the best person you can, i.e. Elend, because he's going to sacrifice himself for everyone else or something like that.
Right.
It actually makes sense that Sazed would do it, because Sazed's got nothing else. He's going to go and visit Tindwyl, basically, if he dies.
Right. And we both, I think, agreed that the mist is a byproduct of the deepness, but not the deepness itself, right?
That it's part of... I don't know, you might be with the byproduct thing, but for me, it's part of the deepness. The deepness is both the mist and the mist creatures and something else. So it's vast. It's not just the mist, but it's also not the mist. If you know what I'm saying.
Sure. Have we theorized that there is no deepness? That's the lie?
Never.
Okay.
I don't like that. How is there no deepness when there's mists and things like this? And the land used to be green. And the sun used to be normal.
It's sort of like an if it's not broke, don't fix it thing. If Alendi thinks he's the hero of ages, and he thinks he's supposed to fix something, but there isn't anything to fix, he destroys the world by accident. But the mist came before the...
before he went to the Well of Ascension.
Yeah, and it was wreaking metaphorical havoc. Presumably it was stopping plants from growing. So clearly there was something that shifted in the state of the world, and we presume that is why the mist is considered the deepness, right?
Yeah, maybe that was the mist only coming during the day and things like that. Maybe it was a natural phenomenon, and then like an eruption, because it's always and ash always falling from the sky. So like it's a huge eruption that started that, and then somehow the deepness froze things. The deepness, like with the Well of Ascension, froze things in place in some sort of weird way, and the way that the mist behaves is just part of the magic of that. I don't know. Now we're getting to... My brain is frying before we even get into the chapter. So.
I'm sorry. No, but it's interesting because we haven't explored the possibility that there is no deepness, but I think it feels self-evident that there's something wrong with the world that preceded Rashek, and Rashek exacerbated the issue. Yeah.
I think that's a solid theory, because he wasn't supposed to take the power, and it actually messed stuff up.
Yeah.
I wish, and the thing is, with us theorizing like this, we're not going to get the answer in this chapter. I don't think we're like, so it's upsetting.
Sorry. Look, we all know what we need to do, Set said, pounding the table. We've got our armies here, ready and willing to fight. Now let's go get my damn kingdom back. That's exactly what I thought Set would focus his primary interest on now.
Yeah, it's just very Set, but it's like, did you really think people were gonna be okay with that that's what they wanted to do? Like, good luck trying to convince them, but no, Set. Like, we've just... Look at this city. Look around you. Like, okay, I understand that that's what he wants, but no. Sit down.
I understand it.
Well,
I
he's
empathize.
Probably sitting.
I empathize with Seth.
Mm-hmm.
The Empress gave us no command to do such a thing, Yanarl said, sipping his tea completely unfazed by Set's lack of decorum. I personally think that we should wait at least until the Emperor returns. I love it! He's not a king, he's an emperor, and Sazed commands kings.
And Vin is Empress. Can you imagine Vin hearing that? Ugh. Is she there? Is she in the room?
I think she's sleeping.
Yeah, yes, she's probably sleeping. Yes, this is right.
Yeah. And didn't Yanarl have a broken leg in the last chapter he was in?
He strapped it up. He's good. He's just having a bit of tea. Tea is good. Tea will heal a lot of things.
True. Penrod, the oldest of the men in the room, had enough tact to look sympathetic. I understand that you are concerned for your people, Lord Set, but we haven't even had a week to rebuild Luthadel. It is far too early to be worrying about expanding our influence. We cannot possibly authorize these preparations.
That's correct. That's where I'm at. Look, Penrod, I'm sympathetic too, but no, that's it.
Yeah, let's not head off before any shockwaves have had a time to, or aftershocks have had time to hit.
Mm-hmm.
But I am all for helping Set get his kingdom back, especially now that he's under the Elend Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, leave off, Penrod, Set snapped. You're not in charge of us.
You're not the boss here. Okay.
All three men turned to Sazed. He felt very awkward sitting at the head of the table in Keep Venture's conference chamber. Aides in attendance, including some of Dockson's bureaucrats, stood at the perimeter of the sparse room, but only the three rulers, now kings beneath Elend's imperial rule, sat with Sazed at the table.
Okay, so we still have no confirmation that it's that Dockson's dead, because if he was wounded and whatever, he wouldn't be in this room anyway. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The cope. Okay.
Unless he's off with Marsh or something. If he's unironically dead, I would be very unsatisfied with, one, that ending, and two, how everyone else learned about that ending. But the timing in which we can get a suitable reunion is swiftly diminishing.
Yep.
I think that we should not be hasty, Lord Set, Sazed said. This isn't haste, Set said, pounding the table again. I merely want to order scout and spy reports so that we can have information we need when we invade. Not a bad plan. I think that sounds reasonable, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
If we do invade, Yanarl said, if the Emperor decides to recover Fadrex City, it won't happen until this summer at the very earliest. We have far more pressing concerns. My armies have been away from the northern dominance for too long. It is basic political theory that we should stabilize what we have before we move into new territory.
Yeah. Like, that they haven't had any stability where they're at, okay? So can we please just chill?
Yeah. Look, I don't necessarily think Vin should personally bring all the Kolos out to Set's land and help him recover in that way. But
that's the way that it seems like the best it would.
I
would expect Elend to want to do diplomacy first. Hey, surrender. So I guess you could bring the Kolos around as a threat and be like, listen, you see these guys? They're ours. So what you gonna do? I think that's what Elend would probably want to do. He wouldn't want fighting. Neither would Vin, but Vin's happy in her knife role now.
Yeah. Look, we could just do a bit of shuffling, all right? They can go to the obligator that has Set's place and be like, hey, we killed Jostas, so why don't you just take his territory, and then Set can have his back.
Don't give an obligator.
No
obligator.
I made that suggestion ironically, by the way. Just Good. For those who couldn't tell. Bah! Set said, waving an indifferent hand. You may send your scouts, Lord Set, Sazed said. Good, Sazed! But they are to seek information only, They are to engage in no raids, no matter how tempting the opportunity. Raiding seems to undermine the role of spy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Set shook a bearded head. This is why I never bothered to play political games with the rest of the Final Empire. Nothing gets done because everyone is too busy scheming.
Okay, so we just barge in. Okay. We really have given him the right what's the name? Accent for this.
Look, he's a very blunt man. It suits him.
Mm-hmm.
That tactic suits him. There is much to be said for subtlety, Lord Set, Penrod said. Patience brings the greater prize. Greater prize? Set asked. What did the Central Dominance earn itself by waiting? You waited right up until the moment that your city fell. If you hadn't been the ones with the best Mistborn... Best Mistborn, my lord? Sazed asked quietly. Did you not see her take command of the Kolos? Did you not see her leap across the sky like an arrow in flight? Lady Wynn isn't simply the best Mistborn. Oh, is he gonna push her as a divinity, as the hero?
I don't know if he'll do that now, if he's at that point yet.
Yeah. The group fell silent. I have to keep them focused on her, Sazed thought. Without Wynn's leadership, without the threat of her power, this coalition would dissolve in 3 heartbeats. Yeah.
True.
But I do have to say I'm really enjoying this scene so far. I love seeing this cast of characters argue in this way under these circumstances as allies. It's really fun for me.
It is.
He felt so inadequate. He couldn't keep the men on topic, and he couldn't do much to help them with their various problems. He could only keep reminding them of Vin's power. The trouble was, he didn't really want to. He was feeling something very odd in himself, feelings he usually didn't have. Indifference, apathy. Why did anything that these men talked about matter? Why did anything matter now that Tindwyl was dead? Oh.
Yep. Yeah. That's gonna happen. He's not gonna shake it off that easy. He's doing what he's supposed to do, but it's like, yeah, this depression is sinking in.
Yeah, and he hasn't had time to process, and he's no dachshund. He can't bury himself in his work.
Mm-hmm. And he's never had this as well. This is like, he hasn't loved someone before. This is a big deal.
Yeah. He gritted his teeth, trying to force himself to focus. Very well, Set said, waving a hand. I'll send the scouts. Has that food arrived from Urtio yet, Yanar? The younger nobleman grew uncomfortable. We may have trouble with that, my lord. It seems that an unwholesome element has been rabble-rousing in the city. No wonder you want to send troops back to the Northern Dominance, Set said. You're planning to conquer your kingdom back and leave mine to rot.
Here we go. Yeah, this is just showing how, yes, indeed, this coalition would definitely not persist without Vin's iron fist. Yes, that rhymes.
Yes. Urtio is much closer than your capital, Set, Yanarl said, turning back to his tea. It only makes sense to set me up there before we turn our attention westward. We will let the Empress make that decision, Penrod said. He liked to act the mediator, and by doing so he made himself seem above the issues. In essence, he put himself in control by standing between the other two. I guess he learned a little something from Ellen.
There you go, look.
Not all that...
The next line.
Oh! Hey! Not all that different from what Ellen tried to do with our armies, Sazed thought. The boy had more of a sense of political strategy than Tindwyl had ever credited him with. I shouldn't think about her, he told himself, closing his eyes. Yet it was hard not to. Everything Sazed did, everything he thought, seemed more wrong because she was gone. Lights seemed dimmer. Motivations were more difficult to reach. He found that he had trouble even wanting to pay attention to the kings, let alone give them direction.
Yeah. And then he wants to avoid that pain button whenever he thinks about it. It's like, oh, she's gone. and that exacerbates everything. And you have to kind of get used to that button being pushed every day, all the time.
Yeah.
That's grief.
Yeah. The grief doesn't go away. It expands and retracts with time. It's still so darn fresh for him.
Mm-hmm.
It was foolish, he knew. How long had Tindwell been back in his life? Only a few months. Surely her love for him, despite his lack of manhood, despite his unorthodoxy among the keepers, had been a miracle. Yet whom did he thank for that blessing, and whom did he curse for stealing her away? He knew of hundreds of gods. He would hate them all if he thought it would do any good.
Mm-hmm. The gods took her away, but he doesn't even know which ones to curse. Doesn't really matter. That's basically what he's saying.
Analysis paralysis. Meanwhile, if there was one god that he paid attention to, or devoted himself to, it's easier to blame or praise that one specific god, whereas with many religions, it's like, yeah, just that. Who?
Yeah, and also there's probably religions that offer comfort in times of grief, and he can't find those.
Yep.
Or he can't tap into them. Yeah.
For the sake of his own sanity, he forced himself to get distracted by the kings again. Listen, Penrod was saying, leaning forward, arms on the tabletop. I think we're looking at this the wrong way, gentlemen. We shouldn't be squabbling. We should be happy. We are in a very unique position. In the time since the Lord Ruler's empire fell, dozens, perhaps hundreds of men have tried to set themselves up as kings in various ways. The one thing they shared was that they all lacked stability. Well, it appears that we are going to be forced to work together. I'm starting to see this in a favorable light. I will give my allegiance to the Venture couple. I'll even live with Ellen Venture's eccentric views of government, if it means that I'll still be in power 10 years from now. Yes, okay. Pragmatic.
Weird, yeah. Yeah, pragmatic. He's not set, but he's not straff, he's not set. He's a weird blend.
Yeah, just underhanded enough to play the political games, but smart enough not to rock the boat too much, unless it's a safe move.
Yeah.
Zet scratched at his beard for a moment, then nodded. You make a good point, Penrod. Maybe the first good one I've ever heard out of you. But we can't continue trying to assume that we know what we ought to do, Yenarl said. We need direction. I suspect surviving the next 10 years is going to depend heavily on my not ending up dead on the end of that Mistborn girl's knife. Yes, but that's super easy to do. Don't piss off Ellen.
Yes, that's the only time. Vin's not about watching you guys. She actually doesn't care. As long as Ellender's Ellender's happy with the state of things, I think she'll be fine.
Yeah, and ironically, the three of them are in a unique position. It's Ellen's collaborative politics. The three kingdoms make for a strong bloc, a formidable force. So if they can work together, any of them can put aside their petty house politics, as Ellen would say, and focus on the collaboration. They could build an empire.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, they got to understand, they still get to be kings then. Good for you guys. You get to be leaders. You still get to be, yes, you're under the emperor, but you're still leaders in your own lands. So there's enough power, okay? Gosh.
Indeed, Penrod said, nodding curtly. Master Terraceman, when can we expect the Empress to take command again? Once again, all three pairs of eyes turned to Sazed. I don't really care, Sazed thought, then immediately felt guilty. Yeah, that felt terrible to read. Vin was his friend. He did care, even if it was hard to care about anything for him. He looked down in shame. Lady Wynne is suffering greatly from the effects of an extended pewter drag, he said. She pushed herself very hard this last year, and then ended it by running all the way back to Lucidal. She is in great need of rest, I think. We should let her be for a time longer. The others nodded and returned to their discussion. Sazed's mind turned to Vin. He'd understated her malady, and he was beginning to worry. A pewter drag drained the body, and he suspected that she'd been forcing herself to stay awake with the metal for months now. When a keep restored wakefulness, he slept as if in a coma for a time. He could only hope that the effects of such a terrible pewter drag were the same, for Vin hadn't awoken once since her return a week before. Oh, okay, it's been a week.
I hope they've been giving her... She does need to have some sort of small burn of pewter, right?
Yeah, I assume...
Because if she lets go... Yeah.
I assume they've been taking care of that stuff. And she does burn in her sleep, as we have learned. But what have you guys done in a week?
Keep building. What do you want them to do?
I don't know.
Clean up? They're not going to go and conquer anyone else. They better sit tight.
No, I don't expect that, but... And where's Elend in this time?
Yeah. Well, he's traveling with a whole bunch of terrorists.
That's true. That would slow them down. When would her sleep end? Her Kolos army waited outside the city, apparently controlled, even though she was unconscious. But for how long? Pewter dragging could kill if the person had pushed themselves too hard. What would happen to the city if she never woke up? She'll wake up. I have no doubt. I'm not worried.
We have more books.
Yeah. I appreciate that Sazed is concerned about it, though.
Yeah, especially the state he's in. He's just like, is it someone else going to die? Why not?
A lot of ashfalls lately, Elend thought as he and Spook emerged from the trees and looked out over the Luthadel plain. See? Spook said, quietly pointing. The city gates are broken. Okay, so they made it back. Yay!
Finally, yeah. There we go. That's where they've been. Cool. It's okay. Vin can rest a little bit more. At least Elend is here to figure stuff out. It'll keep everybody busy. But he also needs to figure out whether it's safe in there.
Foolish Elend. The first thing he'll want to do is reestablish the assembly.
Yep.
Yeah. Elend frowned. But the Kolos are camped outside the city. And Straff's army camp was also still there, right where it had been. Work crews? Spook said, shading his face against the sunlight to protect his overly sensitive Alamancer's eyes because he's an addict.
But also he needs to have his... Yes, because he does need to actually use it now, though. Because he is spying on... Well, not spying. He's trying to figure out details, so... We do need... his addiction is convenient right now.
Looks like they're burying corpses. Ellen's frown deepened. Finn, what happened to her? Is she all right? He and Spook had cut across country, taking a cue from the terracemen to make certain that they didn't get discovered by patrols from the city. So they parted ways.
Yeah. So that's another thing maybe that made them take longer, is that they're trying to make sure that they're not seen.
Today they'd broken their pattern, traveling a while during the day so that they could arrive at Luthadel right before nightfall. The mists would soon be coming, and Elend was fatigued, both from rising early and from walking so long. More than that, he was tired of not knowing what had happened to Luthadel. Can you see whose flag is set over the gates? He asked. Spook paused, apparently flaring his metals. Yours, he finally said, surprised. Ellen smiled. Well, either they managed to save the city somehow, or this is a very elaborate trap to capture me.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I could see that being a thing.
But glad it's not.
Yeah. Come on, he said, pointing to a line of refugees who were being allowed back into the city, likely those who had fled before, returning for food now that the danger was past. We'll mix with those and make our way in. Okay. Neat. They're gonna hear some gossip.
But we're going back to Sazed now, I see.
Sazed sighed quietly, shutting the door to his room. The kings were finished with the day's arguments. They were starting to get along quite well, considering the fact that they'd all tried to conquer each other a few weeks before. Whoa. Penrod did not try to conquer anyone, except Elend.
Yeah.
Which he did legally. Scummily, but legally.
I don't know. Do you think Sazed cares about being accurate right now?
No, I'm just being pedantic. Sazed could take no credit for their newfound amiability. He had other preoccupations. I've seen many die in my days, he thought, walking into the room. Kelsier, Yodendville, Krenda, people I respected. I never wondered what happened to their spirits. You weren't in love with them. He set his candle on the table, the fragile light illuminating a few scattered pages. Pile of strange metal nails taken from Kolos bodies and one manuscript. Sazed sat down at the table, fingers brushing the papers, remembering the days spent studying with Tindwell. Metal nails.
Okay, yeah, what's up with that? Is that's what creates them?
Because we know that there are metal pointy things in the Inquisitors.
Screwy things. Yeah. Spikes.
Yeah, spikes. So I'm inclined to think yes. Although, who's tearing up Kolos bodies to gather them?
Well, it's research. It's for science.
This is true. Sazed sat down at the table, fingers brushing the papers, remembering the days spent studying with Tindwell. Maybe this is why Wynne put me in charge, he thought. She knew I'd need something to take my mind off Tindwell. Nah, I don't think she was thinking that hard. I think she was too exhausted.
Yeah. She just trusts him.
Yet he was finding more and more that he didn't want to take his mind off her. Which was more potent, the pain of memory or the pain of forgetting? He was a keeper. It was his life's work to remember. Forgetting even in the name of personal peace was not something that appealed to him. I really like how back and forth Sazed, the prose is, because it really accentuates Sazed's grief, I think.
Yeah, his grief and his way of trying to get through it.
Yeah. He flipped through the manuscript, smiling fondly in the dark chamber. Oh, he's going to see a line that sticks out to him in a different way than ever before.
Hopefully.
He'd sent a cleaned-up, rewritten version with Vin and Elend to the north. This was the original, the frantically, almost desperately scribbled manuscript made by two frightened scholars. As he fingered the pages, the flickering candlelight revealed Tindwell's firm yet beautiful script. It mixed easily with paragraphs written in Sazed's own more reserved hand. Sometimes a page would alternate between their different hands 12 different times. He didn't realize...
Oh, that would be so painful to look at. Yeah, just literally looking at the handwriting of someone you've lost is, it's like hearing their voice.
Yeah.
On like a voicemail or something. Oh, gosh.
He didn't realize that he was crying until he blinked, sending loose a tear that hit the page. He looked down, stunned as the bit of water caused a swirl in the ink. No! What now, Tindwell? He whispered. Why did we do this? You never believed in the hero of ages, and I never believed in anything, it appears. What was the point of all of this? He reached up and dabbed the teardrop with his sleeve, preserving the page as best he could. Despite his tiredness, he began to read, selecting a random paragraph. He read to remember, to think of days when he hadn't worried about why they were studying. He had simply been content to do what he enjoyed best with the person he had come to love most. Yeah, that's a very sweet paragraph there.
This is just making me think he's going to notice something. Because he's just reading.
I agree.
Yeah.
We gathered everything we could find on the hero of ages and the deepness, he thought, reading. But so much of it seems contradictory. He flipped through to a particular section, one that Tindwell had insisted that they include. It contained the several most blatant self-contradictions, as declared by Tindwell. He read them over, giving them fair consideration for the first time. This was Tindwell, the scholar, a cautious skeptic. He fingered through the passages, reading her script. The hero of ages will be tall of stature, one read, a man who cannot be ignored by others. Sazed's tall?
Yeah, he's Terrace, hello?
The power must not be taken, read another. Of this we are certain. It must be held, but not used. It must be released. Tindwyl had found that condition foolish, since other sections talked about the hero using the power to defeat the deepness.
Maybe whatever it means by released means defeating the deepness. It doesn't mean that it now needs to be used in a battle of some sorts, but it seems like whatever happens with the power will defeat the deepness. It just in the way that it's done. Be like pressing a button.
Yeah.
It's not like, yeah.
There's an episode at the end of Lost between the Man in Black, I think he's called, the shadow monster guy, and Jacob. No, it is not. It is between Jacob and Richard Alpert, I think was the name. And Richard asks what the island is, and Jacob takes a bottle of wine and he swirls it around and says, "See this wine? That's the smoke monster. See this cork? That's the island. If the smoke monster gets out and then he breaks the thing, it's the end of the world." Spoiler alert for the last season of Lost. I'm imagining something not unlike that now, where the mist isn't the deepness. The deepness is whatever the cork is in that analogy. And the mist needs to get out. Any of that make sense to you?
Yeah, the mist needs to get out. That seems like something that Sanderson would do. Like the door kind of thing makes sense.
Yeah, exactly like the door. So like all of the mist is building up because there's a blockage, and that blockage needs to be drained. And I don't know, maybe using the power like just clogs it more or something.
Well, not whatever the well is clogs it. It needs to flow.
Yeah. Tindwyl had found that condition foolish, since other sections talked about the hero using the power to defeat the deepness.
Ooh.
What?
I think the thing that the conclusion Sazed might come to is that it's Elend here. So initially he thought we got the gender wrong, and I think he might be spending some time and thinking about Elend here. He might convince himself it's Elend. He's not anywhere near convincing himself it's him. So I think he might change to it's Elend here.
Okay. "All men are selfish," read another. "The hero is a man who can see the needs of all beyond his own desires." That does seem more Elend than Vin, in a way. Well, that's not entirely true if Vin was so concerned with the deepness, more so than the issues of Luthadel.
Yeah.
"If all men are selfish," Tindwyl had asked, "then how can the hero be selfless, as is said in other passages? And indeed, how can a humble man be expected to conquer the world?" It's metaphor?
Vin does the conquering. He does the ruling. I don't know.
It could easily be one of those, I'm just trying to do what's right, and for some reason you guys all love me for it. And
I'll end up being in charge.
Yeah. Sazed shook his head, smiling. At times her objections had been very well conceived, but at other times she had been struggling to offer another opinion, no matter how much of a stretch it required. He ran his fingers across the page again, but lingered on the first paragraph. "Tall of stature," it said. That wouldn't refer to Vin. It hadn't come from the rubbing, but another book. Tindwyl had included it because the rubbing, the more trustworthy source, said he'd be short.
Oh, stop! What? The rubbing said he'd be short? So the rubbing does include the prophecy? I don't remember an epigraph where he said it would be short.
Quan said Alendi was short, but had like that personality that towered over others. So any number of these statements could be metaphorical.
But Quan as well knew that it wasn't Alendi anyway. So whatever comparison he's made there is just...
Or it's friendship, and there's a tall hero and a short hero.
Yes, and it's the like the magical creatures that they they put together for Snow White initially. Yeah, it's all them.
Sazed flipped through the book to the complete transcription of Kwan's steel plate testimony, searching for the passage.
Oh, really? Yours says steel plate, mine says iron plate.
Interesting.
Mm.
Alendi's height struck me the first time I saw him, it read. Here was a man who was small of stature, but who seemed to tower over others, a man who demanded respect.
Oh yes, they haven't figured out. They haven't done what you did with the epigraphs, obviously. They haven't figured out. How could they not? They have the full full rubbing. They should know that. Yeah, so they should know that he lied about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sazed frowned. Before, he'd argued that there was no contradiction, for one passage could be interpreted as referring to the hero's presence or character, rather than merely his physical height. Now Sazed stopped to consider really seeing Tyndall's objections for the first time. Yeah, maybe Kwan was super tall, and the person that wrote the prophecy was super short. You don't know.
Yeah, it's all relative. But also, okay, so he might not be convincing. So now just looking at what he's thinking about, maybe it's not that he'll think of Elend, but he's now going to realize that there's a lie. So that's this is where we get confirmation of your theory.
Now Sazed stopped to consider really seeing Tyndall's objections for the first time, and something felt wrong to him. He looked back at his book, scanning the contents of the page. There was a place for me in the lore of the anticipation, he read. I sought myself the holy first witness. Excuse me? Not the announcer, but the holy first witness, the thing that Sazed was called?
Yep. Sometimes translation does that.
Yes. But that's not a mistake on Sanderson's part.
No, it's not.
We have not had Holy First Witness before, except in the earlier chapter in reference specifically to Sazed.
Yep. And also just keep in mind that when it came to us reading the epigraphs and the actual journal in the first book, there were some slight differences.
Mm-hmm.
As if they'd been translated several times or something like that.
I sought myself the holy first witness, the prophet foretold to discover the hero of ages. Renouncing Alendi's end would have been to renounce my new position, my acceptance by the others. Yeah, the epigraph definitely said announcer before, and here it says holy first witness.
Yeah, we would have gone, whoa, if we heard holy first witness. We and had heard it before, read it before, but we did make the connection between announcer and holy first witness.
Yeah.
It could be a quirk of translation. So.
Yeah. Sazed's frown deepened. He traced the paragraph. Outside it was growing dark, and a few trails of mist curled around the shutters, creeping into the room before vanishing. Holy first witness, he thought. How did I miss that? It's the same names of people called me at the gates. I didn't recognize it. What are the odds someone switched the word at some point during the fight, though?
I'm thinking of that thing where it cut out a certain part of the rubbing and everything, remember? The
thing that ripped the pages, so someone could have changed the writing.
But to have their handwriting and everything?
Yeah, that's what's sticking against me. Maybe we jumped into an alternate reality.
Or Hoyd has come in and changed it.
Yeah.
It's a forgery.
Holy first witness, he thought. How did I miss that? It's the same names of people called me at the gates. I didn't recognize it.
Sazed?
Sazed jumped, nearly toppling his book to the floor as he turned. Vin stood behind him, a dark shadow in the poorly lit room. Lady Wynne, you're up! Yay, Vin is back.
You shouldn't have let me sleep so long,
she said. We tried to wake you, he said softly. You were in a coma. She hesitated. Perhaps it is for the best, Lady Wynne, Sazed said. The fighting is done, and you pushed yourself hard these last few months. It is good for you to get some rest now that this is over.
Lol, it's not over.
No, not by a long shot.
Yeah, this level's over. Nicely done.
She stepped forward, shaking her head, and Sazed could see that she looked haggard in her usual shirt and trousers, despite her days of rest.
No, Sazed, this is not over. Not by far.
What do you mean? Sazed asked, growing concerned.
I can still hear it in my head.
Vin said, raising a hand to her forehead.
It's here, in the city.
The Well of Ascension? Sazed asked. But Lady Wynn, I lied about that. Truly and apologetically, I don't even know if there is such a thing. No, you lied about knowing where it is, and she's saying it's somewhere else.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's that she didn't. She did believe you that she followed your guidance, but she knew it was a thing. She didn't need you to confirm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe me to be the hero of ages?
Sazed looked away. A few days ago on the field outside the city, I felt certain. But lately, I don't seem to know what I believe anymore. The prophecies and stories are a jumble of contradictions.
This isn't about prophecies.
Vin said, walking over to his table and looking at his book.
This is about what needs to be done. I can feel it, pulling me.
She glanced at the closed window, with the mists curling at the edges. Then she walked over and threw the shutters open, letting in the cold winter air. Vin stood, closing her eyes and letting the mists wash over her.
I drew upon it once, Sazed. Do you know that? Did I tell you? When I fought the Lord Ruler, I drew power from the mists. That's how I defeated him.
Cool. Good to know. Interesting way to remember that.
And also, yeah, why didn't you talk about it? I suppose you were just, you're Vin, I need to keep everything secret.
Mm-hmm. Sazed shivered, not just from the cold. And that would, in theory, because we think it was far away at that point, that means she was able to pull upon it from far away.
Yeah. Also, I think even if she had spoken about it, they would have dismissed it. Just like, you thought that. Because that's how she did it. She was like, I thought I did it, but...
Look, Alan doesn't even believe her about the mist spirit, so why would they believe her about that?
Yeah, exactly.
Sazed shivered, not just from the cold. From the tone in her voice and the air of her words. Lady Wynn, he said, but wasn't sure how to continue. Drew upon the mists? What did she mean?
The well is here,
she repeated, looking out the window, mist curling into the room. It can't be, Lady Wynn, Sazed said. All of the reports agree the Well of Ascension was found in the Terrace Mountains. Vin shook her head.
He changed the world, Sazed.
He frowned. What?
The Lord Ruler. He created the Ash Mounts. The records say he made the vast deserts around the Empire, that he broke the land in order to preserve it. Why should we assume that things look like they did when he first climbed to the well? He created mountains. Why couldn't he have flattened them?
Sazed felt a chill.
It's what I would do. If I knew the power would return, if I wanted to preserve it, I'd hide the well. I'd let the legends remain, talking about mountains to the north. Then I would build my city around the well so that I could keep an eye on it.
She turned, looking at him. It's
here. The power waits.
According to this, though, then the well has been in the city the entire time and not moved.
Yeah.
Which would suggest but the thumping is getting closer, which suggests the thumping is something other than the well.
The well, yeah, because it seemed to come from the distance. It came from Terrace.
It moved.
So is it? Yeah, is it the core of the Earth?
Is it the core of the Earth?
Yeah,
maybe.
Like the So the core of the Earth moves, right? So it's like it's come around. Again.
She turned, looking at him. But, again, none of them have connected the atium to the Well of Ascension. Not yet.
Yeah.
Or the missing atium, rather. Sazed opened his mouth to object, but could find nothing. He had no faith. Who was he to argue with such things? Then he heard voices below from outside. Voices? He thought. At night in the mists? Curious, he strained to hear what was being said, but they were too far away. I bet it's Elend. He reached into the bag beside his table. Most of his metal mines were empty. He wore only his copper mines with their stores of ancient knowledge. Inside the sack he found a small pouch. It contained the 10 rings he had prepared for the siege, but had never used. He pulled it open, took out one of the 10, then tucked the bag into his sash. With this ring, a tin mind, he could tap hearing. The words below became distinct to him. The king! The king has returned! Vin leapt out the window. Yay, I mean emperor, but yay.
Well, they don't know. The people, I suppose, are not putting that together.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. It's only been a week. I don't fully understand how she does it either, Al, Ham said, his arm in a sling. Elend walked through the city streets, people trailing behind him speaking in excited tones. The crowd was growing larger and larger as people heard that Elend had returned. Spook eyed them uncertainly, but seemed to be enjoying the attention. I was out cold for the last part of the battle, Ham was saying. Only Pewter kept me alive. Kolos slaughtered my team, breached the walls of the keep I was defending. I got out and found Sazed, but my mind was growing muddled by then. I remember falling unconscious outside Keep Hasting. When I woke up, Vin had already taken the city back. They paused. Vin stood in front of them in the city street. Quiet, dark. In the mists, she looked almost like the spirit Elend had seen earlier. Vin? He asked in the eerie air.
Elend,
she said, rushing forward into his arms, and the air of mystery was gone. She shivered as she held him.
I'm sorry. I think I did something bad.
Oh? He asked. What is that?
I made you emperor.
That's cute. Elend smiled. I noticed, and I accept.
After all you did to make certain people had a choice.
Elend shook his head. I'm beginning to think my opinions were simplistic, honorable, but incomplete. We'll deal with this. I'm just glad to find that my city is still standing. Vin smiled. She looked tired. Vin? He asked. Are you still pewter dragging?
No. This is something else.
She glanced to the side, face thoughtful as if deciding something.
Come.
Are
they going to the Well of Ascension right now?
Probably. If they can find it, or have an inkling of where it is. I'm excited that Elend is emperor, but...
This was too easy?
Yeah, again, it was just a touch too easy for me, I think.
Well, I think there's enough time for him to think about it further, but he's accepting it. We don't know how he's going to deal with it when it comes to actually being the emperor, how he'll take it. Yeah, he's just stating his conclusion here. Okay, we haven't had his thinking.
Yeah. Does the way he says the stuff that he says strike you as a betrayal of Elend's values at all?
Not at this moment. It's just an explanation for how he's thinking, but we don't know in depth. So I need to understand I need to understand more before I make that judgment.
Okay. I suppose, like, even a more competent Elend from the beginning of the book still would have believed in the assembly. He would have been more forceful, but he still would have believed in that, I guess you could say, democratized process.
Yeah.
This feels like he's forsaking that process a little bit.
I don't think he will. Yeah, it feels like it, but I don't think he would. I think him being emperor means he knows that there are leaders, and the leaders are the ones that will have to make choices amongst themselves. That's it. He's not going to. It's not like he's going to be like, what I say goes completely. I think he would be more of like, oh, there's a council of kings here or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's still some kind of fairness in his eyes.
Yeah. Sazed watched out the window, a second tin mind enhancing his sight. It was indeed Elend below. Sazed smiled, one of the weights on his soul removed. He turned, intending to go and meet the king. King? Emperor? And then he saw something blowing on the floor in front of him, a scrap of paper. Convenient. I don't say as a pejorative. Unironically, in case it sounded like I was being sarcastic there. He knelt down, picking it up, noticing his own handwriting on it. Its edges were jagged from having been ripped. He frowned. Walking over to his table, opening the book to the page with Quan's narrative, a piece was missing. The same piece as before. The one that had been ripped free that time with Tindwell. He'd almost forgotten the strange occurrence with the pages all missing the same sentence. He'd rewritten this page from his metal mind after they'd found the torn sheets. Now the same bit had been torn free, the last sentence. Just to make certain, he put it up next to his book. It fit perfectly. Alendi must not reach the Well of Ascension, it read, for he must not be allowed to take the power for himself. It was the exact wording Sazed had in his memory. The exact wording of the rubbing. And the fact that he just noticed it, did it just say that he rewrote it with...
Yes.
Yeah, so I think the mist, or the mist creature, just ripped it out. Just then.
Again.
You know. The question is it to hide that information from Sazed, or is it to draw Sazed's attention specifically to it?
I think it's to draw his attention.
I think so too.
It's like highlighting it.
Yeah. It was the exact wording Sazed had in his memory, the exact wording of the rubbing. Why would Kwan have worried about this? He thought, sitting down. He says he knew Alendi better than anyone else. In fact, he called Alendi an honorable man on several occasions. Why would Kwan be so worried about Alendi taking the power for himself?
Because Alendi wasn't the hero of ages.
Vin walked through the mists. Elend, Ham, and Spook trailed behind her. The crowd dispersed at Elend's order, though some soldiers stayed close to protect Elend. Vin continued on, feeling the pulses, the thumping, the power that shook her very soul. Why couldn't the others feel it? Vin, Elend asked, where are we going?
Critic Shaw.
Obviously. That's where it's going to be, she said softly. But why? She only shook her head. She knew the truth now. The well was in the city. With how strong the pulses were growing, she might have assumed their direction would be harder to discern. That wasn't the way it was at all. Now that they were loud and full, she found it easier. Does that contradict her observation in the battle chapter?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Because wasn't it like pulsing too loudly in the battle chapter such that she couldn't tell where it was coming from?
Yeah, true. But I guess it's done something. It's reached a certain... It's changed.
Yeah. Elend glanced back at the others, and she could sense his concern. Ahead, Critic Shaw loomed in the night. Spires, like massive spikes, jutted from the ground in an off-balance pattern, reaching accusingly toward the stars above. Vin. The mists are acting strangely.
I know. They're guiding me.
Okay, so she's leveled up and unlocked a new power.
Yeah.
Actually, they kind of look like they're pulling away from you. Vin shook her head. This felt right. How could she explain? Together they entered the remnants of the Lord Ruler's palace.
Okay, so if this is now... She's not the hero of ages. So her taking the power would be a bad thing. So, anyway.
But maybe they'll think they need Atium.
Why? Oh, well, she's just going to instinct it.
Yeah, she's just going to instinct it.
The well was here all along.
Vin thought, amused. She could feel the pulses vibrating through the building. Why hadn't she noticed it before?
Because I wasn't here! The pulses were still too weak then.
She realized.
The well wasn't full yet. Now it is.
And it called to her. She followed the same path as before. The path she'd followed with Kelsier, breaking into Critic Shaw on a doomful night when she had nearly died. The path she'd followed on her own. The night she had come to kill the Lord Ruler. Cramped stone corridors opened into the room, shaped like an upside-down bowl. Ellen's lantern glistened against the fine stonework and murals, mostly in black and gray. The stone shack stood in the center of the room, abandoned, enclosed.
I think we're finally going to find your atium, Elend.
Vin said, smiling. What? Elend said, his voice echoing in the chamber. Vin, we searched here. We tried everything.
Not enough, apparently.
I'm so excited, guys. So excited for revelations. Vin said, eyeing the small building within a building, but not moving toward it.
This is where I'd put it.
She thought.
It makes sense. The Lord Ruler would have wanted to keep the well close so that when the power returned, he'd be able to take it. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I killed him before that could happen.
The booming came from below. They'd torn up sections...
Maybe, hold up.
Hmm?
Hold up. Maybe he was taking from the well. And that's why it wasn't full. And now that he died, he was not taking it. So it needs to be held. This is what is in the prophecy, right? It needs to be held. So it actually needs to flow. If you build it, if it builds up like that, that shit happens really bad.
So you just become a conduit then?
Yes. And if you're not the Hero of Ages, you are not a good enough conduit. So the mist is like a byproduct.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think. And the Hero of Ages would be pure enough for it to flow through, therefore there would be no ash mountain, blah, blah. Or Vin, as Vin said, he is able to make mountains and blah, 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 blah. I don't know. But I'm just thinking, yeah, it's about being a conduit. Because remember, he's saying, you don't know what I do for you.
Yeah.
But I killed him before that could happen.
The booming came from below. They'd torn up sections of the floor, but had stopped when they'd hit solid rock. There had to be a way down. She walked over, searching through the building within a building, but found nothing. She left, passing her confused friends, frustrated. Then she tried burning her metals. As always, the blue lines shot up around her, pointing to sources of metal. Elend was wearing several, as was Spook, though Ham was clean. Some of the stonework bore metal inlays, and lines pointed to those. Everything was as expected. There was nothing. Vin frowned, stepping to the side. One of the inlays bore a particularly thick line. Too thick, in fact. She frowned, inspecting the line as it, like the others, pointed from her chest directly at the stone wall. This one seemed to be pointing beyond the wall.
Ah, okay. I guess it's a lever of some sort. But she's... Also, it's a lot of atium, so... Okay. What?
She pulled on it. Nothing happened. So she pulled harder. Grunting as she was yanked toward the wall, she released the line, glancing about. There were inlays on the floor, deep ones. Curious, she anchored herself by pulling on these, then pulled on the wall again. She thought she felt something budge. She burned duralumin and pulled as hard as she could. The explosion of power nearly ripped her apart, but her anchor held, and duralumin-fueled pewter kept her alive. And a section of the wall slid open, stone grinding against stone in the quiet room. Vin gasped, letting go as her metals ran out.
Damn. I hope she's got another vial on her. Like, I don't know, I just always want her to be filled up.
Agreed. Lord Ruler, Spook said. Ham was quicker, moving with the speed of pewter to stand in the opening. Elend stayed at her side, grabbing her arm as she nearly fell.
I'm fine.
Vin said, downing a vial and restoring her metals.
Yay!
Yeah. The power of the well thumped around her. It almost seemed to shake the room. There are stairs in here, Ham said, turning his head toward them. Vin steadied herself and nodded to Elend, and the two of them followed Ham and Spook through the false section of the wall. Don't leave us there, I see as it continues back to Quan. Oh,
yeah,
no.
We're going. Yeah. Sazed's gonna have to try and stop Vin.
Yes, exactly. Or he'll be too late, too. He'll feel like a massive earthquake or something, right as he comes to the revelation. Oh, no. But I must continue with the sparsest of detail, Quan's account read. Space is limited. The other world-bringers must have thought themselves humble when they came to me, admitting that they had been wrong about Alendi. Even then, I was beginning to doubt my original declaration. However, I was prideful. In the end, my pride may have doomed us all. I had never received much attention from my brethren. They thought that my work and my interests were unsuitable to a world-bringer. They couldn't see how my studies, which focused on nature instead of religion, benefited the people of the 14 lands. As the one who found Alendi, however, I became someone important, foremost among the world-bringers. There was a place for me in the lore of the anticipation. I sought myself the holy first witness, the prophet foretold to discover the hero of ages. Renouncing Alendi then would have been to renounce my new position, my acceptance by the others. Again, it's holy first witness and not announcer, right?
Yeah.
In fact, I'm sorry, I have to open up my Word document and word search through the epigraphs super quickly. One moment. Yeah, thought myself the announcer, thought myself the announcer. So, hot take, uninformed take, I'll say, if we don't get an in-world reason for why the phrase announcer switched to holy first witness, then I will really dislike it. Because that would be Sanderson just outright lying to us. I remember I had an issue in the first book with something to that effect. This right here would be an extension of that. So
I mean, I would have to use headcanon and be like it's a translation thing, but you know that's we still need some, even a throwaway line could do that for me, like just discussing, oh, in Terrace this word means announcer, in this language it could mean, in some dialects it means holy first witness, something like that.
Yeah,
that would be good enough for me, because with the epigraphs and things like that, we're just, it's just information. It's not framed as this is exactly as it appears to a character, but I still want the in-world reasoning, like you said.
Yeah, again, I want to be able to trust that what I'm reading is what I am reading. Does that make sense? Yeah. So to sort of like retroactively change that, supposedly for the sake of a mystery,
that's just a lie.
Yeah, it's a lie. It strikes me as really dirty. So I need. Yeah. Don't change words like that without having an explanation. But there's still time, and so I did not. But I do so now. Let it be known that I, Kvan, Worldbringer of Terrace, am a fraud. Alendi was nowhere the hero of ages. At best I have amplified his virtues, creating a hero where there was none. At worst, I fear that I have corrupted all we believe. Sazed sat at his table, reading from his book. Something is not right here, he thought. He traced back a few lines, looking at the words, Holy First Witness, again. Why did that line keep bothering him? Please, if we could get that answer right now to negate all of my concern that I have in this moment. Are they in an alternate universe? Did they switch? Did they shift dimensions? He sat. I don't actually think that. He sat back, sighing. Even if the prophecies did speak about the future, they wouldn't be things to follow or use as guideposts. Tyndall was right on that count. His own study had proven them to be unreliable and shadowed. So what was the problem? It simply doesn't make sense. But then again, sometimes religion didn't make literal sense. Was that the reason, or was it his own bias? His growing frustration with the teachings he had memorized and taught, but which had betrayed him in the end? It came down to the scrap of paper on his desk, the torn one. Alendi must not be allowed to reach the Well of Ascension. Someone was standing next to his desk. Sazed gasped, stumbling back. I'm scared. Is it Marsh? Nearly Marsh? Tripping over. So, don't look ahead.
Marsh or
the Mist
Marsh
Creature.
or Mist Creature. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, same. It wasn't a person. It was a shadow, formed, it seemed, from streams of mist.
Creature.
Okay. They were very faint, still trailing through the window that Vin had opened, but the shape was a person's. Its head seemed turned toward the table, toward the book, or perhaps the scrap of paper. Sazed felt like running, like scrambling away in fear, but his scholar's mind dredged something up to fight his terror. Alendi, he thought. The one everyone thought was the hero of ages. He said he saw a thing made of mist following him. Wynne claimed to have seen it as well.
Okay, wait, is that Alendi claimed by the mists? he wasn't killed by what's her name, Rashek. The mists actually took him, and Rashek was like, "Cool, let's go." We don't know.
What do you want? He asked, trying to remain calm. The spirit didn't move. Could it be her? He wondered. No, I don't think it is. I'm so sorry.
But it is what you would wish for, yeah.
Yeah. He wondered with shock. Many religions claimed that the dead continued to walk the world beyond the view of mortals. This thing was too short to be Tindwyl. Sazed was sure that he would have recognized her, even in such an amorphous form. Sazed tried to gauge where it was looking. He reached out a hesitant hand, picking up the scrap of paper. The spirit raised an arm, pointing toward the center of the city. Sazed frowned. Is it in the center of the city? Presumably where Vin is, at Credit Shaw?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't understand, he said. The spirit pointed more insistently. Write down...
that will help, thanks.
I see that the next line is, the spirit pointed more insistently. If you want him to go to the center, point at Sazed and then point at the Credit Shaw.
Yeah.
Learn to pantomime better, spirit. Write down for me what you want me to do. It just pointed. That's so Thanks. Helpful. Sazed stood for a long moment in the room with its single candle, then glanced at the opened book. The wind flipped its pages, showing his handwriting, then Tindwyl's, then his again. Alendi must not reach the Well of Ascension, for he must not be allowed to take the power for himself. Perhaps Quan knew something that nobody else had. Could the power corrupt even the best of people? Could that be why he turned against Alendi, trying to stop him? The mist spirit pointed again. If the spirit tore free that sentence, perhaps it was trying to tell me something. But Wynne wouldn't take the power for herself. She wouldn't destroy as the Lord Ruler did. Would she? And if she didn't have a choice? Outside, someone screamed. The yell was of pure terror, and it was soon joined by others. A horrible, echoing set of sounds in a dark night. There wasn't time to think. Sazed grabbed the candle, spilling wax on the table in his haste, and left the room.
Okay, so mist creatures are attacking all over the place, is what I'm thinking. Or the Kolos are out of control.
Yeah, there's been a shift. I wondered if it was Marsh walking through the hallway to get to Sazed, and because of course people are going to be scared of an Inquisitor.
That would be pretty terrifying.
But
yeah,
because I don't think Vin has had time to do what. But yeah, I agree. There's been some sort of shift. I'm wondering if the sentient day mist arrived, even though it's night, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well, my first thought was more mist creatures.
Yeah, could be that as well. Scary. The winding set of stone stairs descended for quite some time. Vin walked down them, Elend at her side, the thumping sounding loudly in her ears. At the bottom, the stairwell opened into a vast chamber. Elend held his lantern high, illuminating a huge stone cavern. Spook was already halfway down the stone steps leading to the floor. Ham was following. Lord Ruler, Elend whispered, standing at Vin's side. We'd never have found this without tearing down the entire building.
That was probably the idea. Critic Shaw isn't simply a palace, but a capstone, built to hide something. This. Above, those inlays on the walls hid the cracks of the doorway, and the metal in them obscured the opening mechanism for Allomantic eyes. If I hadn't had a hint...
Hint? Elend asked, turning to her. Vin shook her head, nodding to the steps. The two began their descent. Below, she heard Spook's voice ring. There's food down here, he yelled. Cans and cans of it!
It's his prepper bunker.
They found rank upon rank of shelves sitting on the cavern floor, meticulously packed as if set aside in preparation for something important. What if Rashek didn't defeat the deepness, which we more or less presume, which means, and we know that Rashek was perturbed when farmers couldn't get as much food quotas as they were supposed to, or meet those quotas, rather. What if he's prepping for the entire world to be engulfed in mist? He slowed it down.
It's gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Vin and Elend reached the cavern floor as Ham chased after Spook, calling for him to slow down. Elend made as if to follow, but Vin grabbed his arm. She was burning iron.
Strong source of metal that way,
she said, growing eager. Elend nodded, and they rushed through the cavern, passing shelf after shelf.
The Lord Ruler must have prepared these,
she thought.
But for what purpose? Well, we've theorized.
Yep. She didn't care at the moment. She didn't really care about the atium either, but Elend's eagerness to find it was too much to ignore. They rushed to the end of the cavern, where they found the source of the metal line. A large metal plaque, words in steel. A large metal plaque hung on the wall, like the one Sazed had described finding in the conventicle of Saren. Elend was clearly disappointed when they saw it. Stupid Elend! Vin stepped forward, looking through tin-enhanced eyes to see what it contained. A map? Elend asked. That's the final empire. Indeed, a map of the empire was carved into the metal. Luthadel was marked at the center. A small circle marked another city nearby. Why is Statland City circled? Elend asked, frowning. Vin shook her head.
This isn't what we came for,
she said.
There.
A tunnel split off from the main cavern.
Come on.
Oh my god, this chapter's killing me right now. With all the jumping.
What's... Yeah, and the city? What's with this city? Is it like your other base? Yeah.
It's like he's preparing for something.
Yeah.
Sazed ran through the streets, not even certain what he was doing. He followed the mist spirit, which was difficult to trace in the night, as his candle had long since puffed out. People screamed. Their panicked sounds gave him chills, and he itched to go and see what the problem was. Yet the mist spirit was demanding. It paused to catch his attention if it lost him. It could simply be leading him to his death, and yet he felt a trust for it that he could not explain. Allomancy, he thought, pulling on my emotions? Is it Kelsier?
So
I don't think it's Kelsier.
No, he's short. And
is it Alendi?
Also
you thought that
maybe.
Earlier.
Yeah. Also, we obviously had this earlier with Elend.
And Elend did not listen to the thing. Before he could consider that further, he stumbled across the first body. It was a skull man in simple clothing, skin stained with ash. His face was twisted in a grimace of pain, and the ash on the ground was smeared from his thrashings. Ooh, it's the mist killing people.
Okay. Mist killing eruption? What's happening?
Sazed gasped as he pulled to a halt. He knelt, studying the body by the dim light of an open window nearby. This man had not died easily. It's like the killings I was studying, he thought. Months ago in the village to this house, the man there said that the mists had killed his friend, caused him to fall to the ground and thrash about. The spirit...
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's the mist killings. But not like mist spirits, it's just the mist killing things.
Yeah.
Or dirt. I don't know.
The spirit appeared in front of Sazed, its posture insistent. Sazed looked up, frowning. You did this? He whispered. I don't think so. The thing shook its head violently, pointing. Kredek Shaw was ahead. It's gotta be Sazed. There's gonna be a fight between Vin and Sazed. Kredek Shaw was ahead. It was the direction Vin and Elend had gone earlier. Wynn said the Velve is still in the city, Sazed thought. The deepness has come upon us, as its tendrils have been doing in the far reaches of the Empire for some time. Killing. Something greater than we comprehend is going on. He still couldn't believe that Vin going to the well would be dangerous. She had read. She knew Rashek's story. She wouldn't take the power for herself. He was confident, but not completely certain. In fact, he was no longer sure what they should do with the well. I have to get to her, stop her, talk to her, prepare her. We can't rush into something like this. If indeed they were going to take the power at the well, they needed to think about it first and decide what the best course was. Some very Sazed thought. The mist spirit continued to point. Sazed stood and ran forward, ignoring the horror of the screams in the night. He approached the doors of the massive palace structure with its spires and spikes, then dashed inside. The spirit remained behind in the mists that had birthed it. Sazed lit his candle again with a flint and waited. It did not move forward. Still, feeling an urgency, Sazed left it.
It can't enter a building. It can't go. Like if mists can come through the building, fine.
But it can't.
It seems like it can't. Yeah.
Yeah. Sazed lit his candle again with a flint and waited. It did not move forward. Still feeling an urgency, Sazed left it, continuing into the depths of the Lord Ruler's former home. The stone walls were cold and dark. His candle a wan light. Zavel couldn't be here, he thought. It's supposed to be in the mountains.
Yes, run.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yet so much about that time was vague. He was beginning to doubt that he'd ever understood the things he'd studied. He quickened his step, shading his candle with his hand, knowing where he needed to go. He'd visited the building within a building, the place where the Lord Ruler had once spent his time. Sazed had studied it after the Empire's fall, chronicling and cataloging. He stepped into the outer room and was halfway across it before he noticed the unfamiliar opening in the wall. A figure stood in the doorway, head bowed. Sazed's candle light reflected from the polished marble walls, the silvery inlaid murals, and the spikes in the man's eyes.
There he is!
Marsh! Yay, he's back, finally. Sazed asked, shocked. Where have you been? What are you doing, Sazed? Marsh whispered. I'm going to win, he said, confused. She has found Zavel, Marsh. We have to get to her, stop her from doing anything with it until we're sure what it does. Marsh remained silent for a short time. You should not have come here, Terraceman, he finally said, head still bowed. I'm so scared.
Is he going to try and stop him?
I trust Marsh, but I also kind of trust the mist creature.
Yeah.
What, Marsh? Drop us some lore, please. Quick, we need to know.
Yeah, come on, Marsh. Like, you're here. Lore dump.
Marsh, what is going on? Sazed took a step forward, feeling urgent. I wish I knew. I wish I understood. Understood what? Sazed asked, voice echoing in the domed room. Marsh stood silently for a moment. Then he looked up, focusing his sightless spikes on Sazed. I wish I understood why I have to kill you. What? He said, then lifted a hand. An allomantic push slammed into the metal bracers on Sazed's arms, throwing him backward, crashing him into the hard stone wall. I'm sorry, Marsh whispered.
Okay, so we have to kill keepers. Oh my god, why is he still doing this? Who's controlling him? What do you mean I have to? Who? It can't be that the other Inquisitors are making him do stuff, because you'd be like, Vin, rip these things out. I don't know.
Is Marsh hearing God? I think Marsh is hearing God.
Yeah, why not? This book, man. Exciting chapter, but...
Very exciting. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I want to know how it ends.
Nope. The book is put down now. It's on the shelf for the next week.
Yeah, you've got stuff to do, so I can't keep you to just go through the rest of it. Anything else to say?
We hope you keep listening.
Yes, we do.
Like the video. Sorry, it's from my other podcast that I listen to, because she goes, we hope you keep listening and we hope you keep it weird. Like the video.
If you like, it does help with the algorithm.
Check out other things on the channel, because there are other things. It's not all Brandon Sanderson here.
Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Subscribe to That Darn Kitte, and because she's got a great channel, we'll see you next time. Okay, thanks, bye.
Okay, thanks, bye.